Greetings, my dear viewer. You're on the channel The Price of Cheating. The channel is for those who appreciate traditional family values and condemn adultery. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. When I finally returned home, my pulse had slowed, but the weight of the evening still pressed on me. It had been an exhausting series of events, a night I wouldn't want to relive anytime soon. What I witnessed had shaken me more than I expected, although I knew I wasn't the first person to face something like this. The difference was that, being a police officer, I was better prepared for the unexpected. I grabbed a bottle of beer and sank into my favorite chair, waiting for my wife to come home. She had been out with her friends, and I expected her back soon. Minutes dragged on, 10, 20. I began to wonder if she was running late when I heard the familiar sound of her key turning in the lock. Here it was, the moment of truth. Everything could go in any direction now. By dawn, our relationship could be shattered beyond recognition, but the next few minutes would decide everything. The choice was hers. "Oh, Charlie," Emily said, surprised to see me sitting in the chair when she entered the house. "What are you still doing up?" The question was logical. At 2 in the morning, it wasn't usual for me to be awake. For months now, I'd typically been fast asleep by the time she returned from her weekly outings with her friends. Her question didn't catch me off guard. I studied her carefully, still struck by how beautiful she was. She was almost 53, a few years younger than me, with a slim figure, long legs, and looks that still caught the attention of others. Her face was sweet and radiant, but I couldn't shake the memory of the men at the club who had lined up to dance with her, their hands wandering too boldly. "Did you have a good time tonight?" I asked calmly. "Not bad," she replied casually, kicking off her shoes. "Just fun as usual, nothing special." Was that true? Was what I saw just another ordinary night? If so, did that mean every Wednesday was like this when she went out with her friends? Sarah and Abigail? She hesitated for a moment before taking off her jacket, as if she were weighing her options. Normally I wouldn't have noticed, but tonight I knew why she hesitated. I knew exactly how revealing her blouse had been, and that she'd removed her bra before coming home. I wondered how many times she had returned like this while I slept, completely unaware. "Ready for bed, dear?" she asked with a smile. "At least I won't wake you up tonight." She wasn't wrong. When she came home late, she sometimes woke me, and if I wasn't too tired, we'd continue where we left off. But if I was out cold, there was always the next day. "Wait, Emily," I said, stopping her as she headed for the stairs. "Can we talk about this tomorrow, Charlie?" she asked, a note of desperation in her voice. "I'm so tired, I really need a shower." "No," I said firmly. For the first time that night, she truly looked at me. The smile faded from her lips. "Take off your jacket and sit down," I said. "It's fine," she replied, sitting down but keeping her jacket on. "I'm comfortable like this." "Take off the jacket, Emily," I repeated, more insistent this time. "I'm really okay," she said, but I didn't believe her. "Take off the damn jacket when I tell you to," I snapped. She flinched, scared, and after a pause, slowly removed the jacket. Her arms remained crossed over her chest, trying to hide what I already knew. She wasn't wearing a bra. I could see the faint movement of her chest under the tight dress. She had lost more than just her bra tonight, and I knew exactly where it had gone. Her bra and panties were in my pocket, but I wasn't ready to reveal that. I told her how my partner, Michael, and I had been patrolling when we noticed a car resembling hers parked near the Wild Coyote Club, a well-known place in town, with a bad reputation, right in the heart of our coastal community. I asked her if it was her car, even though I already knew the answer. She had told me she was going to dinner with her friends that evening. How much did she think I knew? I watched as she struggled to find the right words. "The Wild Coyote?" she asked, frowning, as if she couldn't remember the name. "That's right," I said, my voice calm but firm. "Before you answer, think carefully. Our marriage might depend on it." I watched the color drain from her face. Her hand gripped the edge of the table, trying to steady herself, her chest rising and falling heavily from the strain of keeping control. She had stopped trying to cover her chest, and her dress no longer hid the fact that she wasn't wearing a bra. "That's right, Charlie," Emily whispered, her breath shaky. It's a club, but also a restaurant. We had dinner there. And did you dance? I asked, my voice curious, but with a hint of something more. Dance, Charlie? She repeated, her voice trembling. What's wrong with dancing? I smirked, playing along. I'm just curious, did you dance? Emily's gaze locked onto mine, searching for clues, trying to figure out how much I knew. In our 35 years of marriage, she had never outright lied to me, but this time was different. She knew the ground beneath her was shaky, and I could see the tension in her eyes. Have you been to the club, Charlie? She asked, her voice barely concealing her anxiety. That's for you to find out, isn't it? I replied, maintaining a light but suggestive tone. So, did you dance? She hesitated, her thoughts racing, trying to figure out how much truth I had already uncovered. Yes, we danced, she finally admitted, her voice quiet. The three of us danced a bit. I didn't respond immediately, just kept watching her, the silence growing heavier, making her shift nervously in her chair. All right, she continued, clearly struggling with the truth. We danced a lot, Charlie. Most of the night. Who did you dance with, Emily? I asked calmly, though the question was deliberate. Anyone in particular? She sighed, the tension between us palpable. A few guys here and there. You know how it is. 3 women like us. It's hard not to attract attention. She wasn't lying. I knew how charming Emily and her friends could be, especially in short dresses and high heels, their smiles drawing eyes, their energy captivating. But no one stood out? I pressed. No one you spent more time with? Emily's expression flickered between frustration and guilt. She tried to stand but sat back down, realizing she was caught. Charlie, stop playing games with me, she snapped, her frustration spilling over. How long were you there? What did you see? I wouldn't want to ruin the mystery, I replied, letting her frustration build, then added, Now tell me everything about tonight. Lie, and it's over. Be honest, and maybe I'll find it in me to forgive you. Her silence said a lot. She understood how serious this was. Charlie, please, she whispered, her voice trembling. I love you. You need to know nothing serious happened tonight. We were just fooling around, flirting, that's all. Then tell me everything, I demanded, though inside, I braced for hearing what I already suspected. Emily took a deep breath, her demeanor shifting as if she realized there was no way out. Slowly, she began to recount the night, and I listened, forgetting about sleep or comfort. We arrived at the club, ordered drinks, and soon enough guys started approaching us. They flirted, invited us to dance, and we played along, teasing them a bit. I danced with several of them. One guy danced with me more than the others, but only because he was a really good dancer. I didn't believe her. The way she moved with him wasn't just dancing. From the moment I saw them, it was clear they weren't strangers. Their movements were synchronized, intimate, and his hands never strayed far from her as they danced together. That's it, she finished her story. He left around midnight and we girls stayed much longer. Technically it was true, but it wasn't the whole truth. So you didn't leave with him? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, even though I already knew the answer. Leave with him? She echoed, pretending to be surprised. Why would I leave with him? Her evasiveness was obvious, but despite everything, I still loved her. I decided to give her one last chance to confess. Do you recognize the black BMW parked by the waterfront? I asked, sensing this was her final chance to tell the truth. Emily's face contorted with discomfort, her skin noticeably pale. I heard her quietly mutter, "Oh no," under her breath. The urge to press her was too strong to suppress, and I couldn't help but feel a grim satisfaction at her embarrassment. "Oh, Charlie," she whispered in despair. I simply shrugged. It's nothing. Honestly, I didn't do anything. Nothing serious happened. Her composure shattered, and she suddenly burst into tears, covering her face with her hands, overwhelmed with guilt. So, how long have you been involved with David Smith? I asked, keeping my tone calm. Her eyes widened in shock. You even know his name? She whispered, lowering her hands in defeat. I'm such a fool, Charlie. I'm so sorry, she admitted, her voice trembling. I nodded silently, though she was too consumed by her grief to notice. With the resources at my disposal, finding out about him had been all too easy. My job allowed me to dig into anyone's life with little effort. If I wanted to, I could have uncovered every intimate detail about him. I let her wallow in her shame a little longer before deciding it was time to press further. Reaching into my jacket, I pulled out her bra and tossed it into her lap. "Missing something?" I asked coldly. She didn't reply, just stared at it. Then I reached into another pocket, pulled out her panties, rolled them up, and threw them her way as well. This she couldn't ignore. Emily let out a quiet groan, shaking her head in disbelief. Her lips trembled as she tried to speak, but after a few failed attempts, she finally managed to ask through her tears, "How much did you see?" "Everything," I spat. "Every damn detail, from the moment you let him grope you on the dance floor to when he took off your panties." "Charlie," she sobbed. "I'm sorry," she cried. "I wish I'd never met him, but I didn't let him go all the way, I swear." I watched her, remaining stoic as she spiraled further into hysteria, offering empty promises of love and desperate assurances that she didn't let things go too far. "I know, Emily," I said evenly. "I saw everything. If you had gone all the way, we wouldn't be here right now." Those words triggered another round of apologies, pleas for forgiveness, and vows that it would never happen again. Pathetic. Still, I was ready to give her another chance. I knew full well this wasn't the first time she'd allowed herself to be touched like that. There had been other parties where things had gotten too close under the influence of alcohol, for both of us. But I wasn't done testing her. I needed to see how much she valued our marriage and how insignificant David truly was. I reached into my pocket and tossed a small key onto the table between us. Emily stared at the key, her face filled with confusion. "What is that?" she asked, her voice still trembling as she wiped away her tears. "Don't you recognize it?" I asked. She hesitated for a moment, then slowly nodded. "Yes, it's from your handcuffs, right?" "Something like that," I replied. "It's an old model, untraceable, bought them online." She sobbed, still wiping her eyes, trying to comprehend what was happening. "When you left the club with him, he left first, didn't he? And you followed him a little later?" I asked, watching her reaction closely. She nodded again, avoiding my gaze. "I didn't want anyone to see us leave together, or suspect anything." "And when did you come back?" I pressed. "I came back to the club first," she admitted, her voice barely audible. "David returned a few minutes later." "And him? Did he ever come back after that?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. Her head shot up, her face a mixture of horror and confusion. She gasped, bringing a trembling hand to her mouth. "No, Charlie, he never came back." We waited for half an hour, but he never came back. In the end, we decided to check his car. It was still there, but he had vanished. I shot her a sharp look, the kind that offers no comfort. I let the tension hang in the air, giving her time to piece together what I was hinting at. Finally it clicked, and she gasped. "Oh God, Charlie, what did you do? What did you do to David?" Panic quivered in her voice. "After you left, Michael and I pulled him out of the car and tied him up. Then we took him to the beach, behind the breakwater, and chained him to a post near the old pier. And we revealed who we really are." Emily's eyes widened with disbelief. "What does Michael have to do with all of this?" "Michael was the one who tipped me off. He found out his wife, Lauren, has been seeing David for the past 6 months. They had an affair while Michael was at work. When Michael started following David, he found out that David was also stalking you. So if I have a reason to hate him, Michael has even more." Emily cursed under her breath. "Lauren was the one who introduced me to him, but I had no idea she was involved with him. What now, Charlie? Are you really going to leave him there all night?" I studied her face, trying to read her reaction. "It's not that simple. We left him in a spot where, when the tide rises, the water will be about 3 feet over his head." Her face turned pale, and she whispered in a barely audible voice, "You can't let him drown, Charlie." I remained calm. "He has one chance, Emily. By now, the water's probably already touching his feet. In 40 minutes, it'll all be over, and it's a 20-minute drive to the beach." She stood still, silent. I had given her a hard choice. If he means something to you, you'd better save him. But if you do, you'll never see me again. Either I disappear or I end up in prison. If you decide to stay, come to bed with me and I'll forgive you. We'll pretend none of this ever happened." Emily sat, trembling, holding the key in her hand. She wasn't going to get away with this easily. "You have 10 minutes left," I reminded her. I was about to find out just how much she truly cared about me. If the situation hadn't been so grim, it might have almost been funny, watching her sit there, her eyes dry but her body shaking with fear. She was too wrapped up in guilt to even question whether I was telling the truth. The truth was that after Michael and I pulled David out of the car, we gave him a stern warning. If he ever saw one of our wives near his club again, he'd know to send them away. Though it's unlikely he'll be dealing with club business anytime soon, because we gave him a decent beating. We hung him upside down by the breakwater, just as the tide was starting to rise. Not the best place for a man. 5 minutes left, I said to her, but she still didn't move. Then, as if resigned to her fate, Emily looked at me and quietly said, "Let's go to bed, Charlie." That's when it hit me. It was my moment of decision. Had she suffered enough? I wasn't entirely sure, but then I made up my mind. "Emily, your lover is safe. It was a test. But don't think this is over. Tomorrow, I'm starting the divorce process." This concludes the story. If you like it, then put your powerful like and subscribe to the channel.